This is a special meeting budget workshop of the Financial Planning and Allocation Commission of the Town of Columbia, beginning at 7 o'clock. I'll start with the rules of conduct for a hybrid virtual meeting. This is a web-based call, so the meeting is operating under the following procedures. This session is being both audio recorded. Commissioners and staff will generally remain on mute except when speaking or voting, and will generally be keeping video of themselves on throughout the meeting. If a member of the public creates an audio or video disruption, they may be manually ejected from the meeting upon recommendation of staff or the chair. For public input before the meeting, please email your comments to publicinput@columbiact.org within 24 hours before the meeting.
Thank you. I call this meeting to order. Let's please stand.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, approval of minutes. Comments or motion?
We approve the minutes of the last special meeting. I second.
Any discussion?
Yes, I looked over the meeting and minutes from last week, and I made what I thought was a compelling argument on the money that the board was looking for and why I did not think it was there, and none of that made it into the minutes. And I think it should have been reflected in the minutes. So, and I would like it to be put into last week's minutes. And if you don't have it, I can tell you it again. So,
So why should you do that then?
right. What I said was, in looking at the numbers that were supplied and the information that was given by the acting superintendent and board of school, I realized that the tuition on special education, which was a large part of the surplus 331,000 available funds projected at the end of this year, 313,000 of that was special education tuition. That reflected students that had aged out or moved for the remainder of this year. But it came to light that there was expecting 3, possibly 4 special ed students as soon as this past Monday, which would not only take away from that 313,000, they would use some of that money for their tuition this year and their needs. So that would decrease that 313, but also they were not reflected in the budget going forward for next year. So with the rough estimates that the acting superintendent gave us, it showed me that there was approximately a 200,000 increase to their needs for next year, as well as a deduction in their special education give back or tuition that they wouldn't be using this year. So it reflected that they would not, in fact, have $331,000 surplus, possible surplus at the end of this school year. That could affect as much as $200,000 or more. And I asked the board to consider that before they asked for $200,000 deduction from next year's budget. So I would like that reflected in the minutes.
Got that, Jim?
It's being recorded, so we can go back.
Oh, okay, fine. Then you can bring us revised minutes next meeting or whatever. Okay, we know why we're here and
Should I withdraw my motion to accept
to accept what?
the minutes?
Oh, I'm sorry,
We didn't vote on.
you can move to table.
I'd like to move to table my motion to approve the minutes. Second.
Close enough. We have a motion to table that until we get minutes that reflect comments. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. like I said, we know why we're here, and we know it's about the $200,000 reduction. And I will not start talking. I will turn the meeting over to Board of Ed, sir, if you'd like to.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having us. I just have a few comments really quickly, some that I talked about last time, but a few I'd like to reiterate. We brought up the fact that we have brought a flat budget here, carrying over everything that we had last year to this year with no increase to the town. I've talked about how other towns around us are adding 2%, 3% or more all over, not just local towns, all over the state. But we are not all of the towns. We are Columbia and have to do what's best for Columbia. And to that end, we have projected our budgets. We've done the research year after year to give us the best idea of what we need. And working closely with all parties to do that. Now, many other towns will spend every single cent that they can, regardless of whether they might need to or what they order or what. We, in good faith, as a partnership, have not done so. So I think if there's a view that we've had budgets that are more than what we need in the past, they have been exactly what we project and exactly what we hope for. And in education, there are a variety of things that can change, as we've discussed before. One special education student coming or going can change a budget by $100,000. Okay, so we have not gone to just spend every cent for the sake of it. We've done everything to put it toward the kids. And when we haven't had to do that, essentially, we have given it back out of a partnership with our town. And with increases in enrollment, increases that we know will be coming in utilities and all of those other things, we know that there are needs for every single cent and every single dollar. But the reality is that when you take a flat budget and you reduce it, right, you're assuming that we don't have, or we have everything that we need and essentially more. And when we are not going to be touching teachers or academics or curriculum, we can't take that, we can't touch that. And when you have to make a reduction, the first place that starts is enrichment or extracurriculars or sports or things like that. If those increases happen, you're in even more trouble. So I would like to first, before we end, I would like to give a chance for our acting superintendent as well as our board vice chair to speak as well. But from my perspective, I would just want to reiterate that everything that we've done with our budgets this year and in the past has been in the best interest of kids. We do not have, contracts for hundreds of thousands of dollars with consultants or wasted money. Everything goes into academics, construction, curriculum, and enrichment and extracurriculars for our kids, things that they need. And all we are asking is to carry over what we've had in the past. When again, we could, and others have pushed for more and more. We're trying to be both fiscally responsible and give our kids. Acting Superintendent Barbara Wilson to continue.
Thank you. Thank you. So as you know, the Board of Education's proposed 2022-23 school budget was created to ensure that we're meeting the needs of every student that walked through our doors. It was created at the time, at its inception, with the known needs that we had. And as Mr. Everett alluded to tonight and shared with you this time and last time, we do have some changes in our needs and that they have occurred. We're at a loss, actually, to understand the request from FiPAC to reduce a 0% increase budget given the current status of our town as far as the health of the town, the increase in the other town budgets, the anticipated reduction of the mill rate, as well as all of this coming after 2 years of COVID-19 impact on students. Our students deserve your full support. Much of our costs are fixed and non-negotiable. We have federal and state mandates. We have high school tuition and services. I can't touch those fixed costs. Transportation costs under Section 504, special education, English language learners, McKinney, so I can go on and on with all our mandates. We have food services, we have data reporting. The requested reduction of $200,000 will hit Forest Porter School directly. To come to that amount, $200,000, as Mike shared, any non-mandated service, non-academic areas are where we have to go. We're going to be potentially looking at before and after school supports, school-wide enrichment, clubs, extended school year, world languages, sports, arts, etc. The budget we had proposed is allowing us for the essential and allowed us to get toward the vision that the community shared with us. It addressed the goals that the Board of Ed had proposed and that are outlined in our multi-year improvement plan. Reduction in this budget will negatively impact our ability to reach those goals. We must put the needs of students first. Restoring the $200,000 will maintain a healthy school system and therefore a healthy town of Columbia. Columbia's children deserve to have the full Board of Education's appropriated spending plan to meet their needs. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I don't know who this is.
Christine Sposito, 62 Dovedale Road. I'm vice chair of Board of Education. I have to just echo everything that has already been said. A lot of things have already been said are on my list. Questions that just come to mind when I hear that the budget is a 0% budget being presented and we're still asking to cut by 200,000. It's my understanding that budget cuts get requested when we're trying to save our townspeople money, right? How much money per month in the 2022-2023 school year will each family save by cutting the board budget by $200,000? If we have to cut this money, and parents then have to pay out of pocket for before and after school care, clubs, sports, enrichment, music lessons, private lessons, are they really saving money by cutting the budget? Whose best interest do you have in mind when you're asking to cut this money? And in addition to that, I'm understanding that you're seeing a trend of us returning money. And to reiterate what some of the people before me said, is we're doing that in good faith. I do not believe in over budgeting. I do not believe in fluffing the budget. I ask very difficult questions during the time I'm on the budget committee. And I get those answers to those questions. And with good faith in my time that I spend with this board, I put together a plan with my teammates for the best interest of children. We will always keep best interest of children in mind. So again, I ask, why exactly are you asking for this money? It's because the town needs it, or it's because you don't think we're able to present a fiscally responsible budget?
Is that it? Okay. Let me share a little bit of FiPAC's thinking. The document that I shared with you guys shows a trend, and we look at it. We realize that things have been confused because of COVID over the last couple of years. I don't know what's permanent change and what's temporary. But basically, if you bottom line, you see a pattern that basically jumps out and says the budget document over the past 4 years has not been an accurate predictor of what's going to actually happen the following year. That is not a criticism. It's just that's what the numbers show.
I have something to say about it, if you don't mind.
Of course, I mind, but I'm polite, so I'll listen.
Sure. So again, so yes, those numbers, we have had to give back that money, we have had excess money, but never have we given back that money without factual information as to why that money was not given. It was never just fluff. An educational budget needs to be fluid. So in that case, there are reasons out of our control that money was given back.
Okay, if you had let me finish, I would have said that. That we appreciate the way you manage your money at the end of the year and being responsible in saying, we can use part of the money to make some much needed improvements, things we otherwise might not have done, but we're not going to be greedy and go all out and try to spend every penny. We recognize that, and this document shows that. And I have no criticism of your budget process. I just can't figure out why these gaps keep happening. You said you know, but nobody's ever explained that to us or told or explained to us any changes you've made in order to not let these big differences occur this year and in the future. Again, that's not a criticism. I appreciate what you said, but I'm not sure it's happening. Or I just don't know. And that's what kills me, because I like to think I know everything, but I don't. Anyway, we looked at that and said, oh, okay, something's strange, but that's not the real reason. That's not the only thing we factored in when we made our suggested cut. The other thing is, MBR. It's one of the dumbest laws you're ever gonna see. It is. And right now, we're at a level that if, and I'm saying if, not an accusation, if you have money in your budget that you don't need, it's possible that we're on a threshold where MBR could step in and impose rules that make you roll over that excess money for life. That was one of our considerations, is maybe this is a good time to factor in and take financial advantage of the position we're in relative to MBR. Last year, you guys had excess money, and MBR calculations said we actually could have reduced your budget by what, 267, 167, some number, 267,000. If we had done that last year, you probably would have yelled at us and said you can't reduce our budget by 267,000. Well, we would have been, it would have been okay, it would have worked out. And we would have been in a better position to read MBR. Okay, that's one of the things we're factoring in here, is that the deductions we are allowed in that calculation might disappear this year. Unfortunately, it's a calculation that nobody understands. We can't predict because we don't know how they do it. They want to explain how they do it. All we can do is guess. Now, Stephen, or First Selectman Everett, wanted to emphasize some things that he said, some things that I've said that apparently nobody likes, but I'll say it again. I agree with you, we're a partnership. So what I was getting at is, I'll back up a little bit. Another reason for wanting to keep as much money in the general fund as is practical is that we're going to run into a heavy burden of capital projects over the next 4, 5, 6 years. One of those things I think comes from you guys. You want to repave, do the sidewalks to the tune of 269,000. Now, it would be real sad if the smart thing to do would be to reduce your budget and you could get by and free up that $200,000 if it were available to fund capital projects, including your $260,000 project. That would make sense. Now I'll jump back to what I was about to say. One of the things I was trying to throw out is that maybe it's time for us to think outside the box a little bit. One thing that we all like is that every December, all 3 boards get together and review where we are. There's enough money around to fund your operations without you cutting anything. I would like to see us get through the year without you cutting anything. So what I'm saying to you is, if I were you, I would not cut anything. If we could convince you to present a budget that's $200,000 lower as part of that December get together, why don't we commit to a review of status? And if you came to us in December and said, we started the year, it's working the way I thought it would work, we're going to be $200,000 short, then there are 2 things that could happen. One, the board of selectmen could call a town meeting and give you an additional appropriation. Might not be $200,000, might be $200,000. At that time, we might know that we're in violation of MDR, and they might mandate that we give you back X hundreds of thousands of dollars. But the upside of agreeing to the $200,000 cut is it gives us flexibility. That's basically what it gives us. And it gives us an opportunity to get everything in line, not just so much guessing. We don't have to wait till next year in March to figure out how you're doing or what your margin is going to be. You could be in a position by the end of December, middle of December, to analyze where you are and say, this is what we need. I think, again, the first option is the board of selectmen could call a town meeting and give you the appropriation. The second option is, I know you guys don't want to touch it, but we have 300,000 in the, I always forget, no lapsing account. That I would think that everybody on FiPAC, the only agreement we need there is for you to ask if the FiPAC to say yes. I will say that you would have my vote if you came to us and said, you screwed up and you cut my budget. I'd say, I'm sorry, I vote to give you as much of the 300,000 as you want. And if you want to poll the rest of FiPAC, I'm sure you'd see a lot of heads nodded. But the bottom line is sometimes you have to think outside the box to get things back in line. And I think we can do that without really worrying about 0% increase, 0% increase from, and I'm not saying it was, but a 0% increase from something that was wrong doesn't get you to the right place. And I'm not saying that's what happened, but that's part of the danger of looking at last year's budget, looking at this and saying, oh, there's only a 0% increase. So we're fine. Dick called me to annoy me because he disagreed with some things I said, but I asked him, well, if they came back with and asked for a 10% increase, would you automatically say no because a 10% increase is bad? He said, no. I have to analyze, I think all reasoning, and then vote. And so I think that's why I like to say 0% increase, but I don't take that as a granted, take for granted that that's the best place we could be. So again, I reiterate, I think I'd like to see us go with what we propose and fix it in December. I'm going to give you back the floor.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to give you a chance to speak. I said something. I don't know if you want to hear.
Yeah, I think, I'll get to Barb too as well. I'll just start by saying, it got brought up multiple times about, the fluidity of an educational budget, that it's not just set in stone, and there are many things that we can reiterate the enrollment coming in, who those students are, enrollment going out to next schools, and what that is affecting that. It's a worrisome and troublesome place to start a school year when you already have needs of all kinds, to say nothing of unexpected ones, and you don't have the budget you would like and feel like you need to do it to start, and then hoping come December that it'll work out. Barb, I'll turn it over to you and then say something.
So to start and hope that we don't need to ask for money and to go on a promise of being awarded is not what a school system will do. If we are cut $200,000 our budget, we will find the cuts for $200,000, as I said. And also for our tax consideration, I do want you to remember that right now we have, I think it was about a 27% increase in our grant funding. Overall, much of that will go away next year at ESSER funding. Projecting further, please consider that.
Stephen, you had a frown on your face.
I have a frown on my face.
You had it.
I don't like coming to the town midway through the budget season and say, I need to have a town meeting, need to fund the school, because we didn't do it. I understand your thinking, I do. And there's a part of me that says, he has an idea there. However, every year I put more money into my withholding taxes, so when the government comes knocking at my door, they're handing me a check, not begging for one back, or not begging, taking one back. And I kind of equate to that. I run my budget that way. I'd rather be safe than sorry. I'd rather say to the town, okay, we budgeted them, and one of my questions is, I'm amazed that the FiPAC knew that we were going to have kids move out of the school, and based on your comments, it kind of says, you have a big surplus here. There's a reason for that. The fact that you think it does happen every year. There was a year we had to go up $500,000. This year we went down 300,000.
You're focusing on one thing and that has not been a single source of variances.
Yeah, no, I understand that. You're right. There's something in here that costs another $83,000 this year that nobody knew about either. So that's high. But I do understand what you're saying. Ernie, I really do.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Do I like it?
I don't understand what the risk is here.
Is me coming to the town and saying to the people, I need $250,000 to fund the rest of the school year.
Yeah,
It reflects poorly on the people who plan for the town. Especially when, at the end of the school year, they have historically, religiously given back what they haven't. There's two ways of looking at it. You're FiPAC. We're gonna do it. Do whatever you think. You know, I'm getting a look, so I'll be happy to answer questions on why I feel this way if you have.
I'm sorry, are you a board member?
Yes,
Then fine.
all right. I'm Leah Osborne, I'm new to the board, and so obviously I'm new to a lot of this. But what sounds to me is that risk is potentially the enrichment activities for our kids in Columbia. Because bottom line, that's what's gonna have to go. And I don't think that this is the time to do that. We're coming out of COVID. These kids have been putting up with so much stuff for the last 2 years. And to put that at risk, I think is unacceptable for this town.
Dick,
Okay. I heard everything said, and you did make some good points. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. But I've been involved in town government for nearly 20 years. We've never had the Board of Ed request a zero increase. It's always greater than, it's always an increase. We've never had a flat request on the budget. The student population has gone up, projected to go up by 8 students this coming year. The fuel costs are going to go up tremendously. We have a healthy fund balance, and we can afford a 0% tax increase by taking money from the fund balance, and we're still going to have a very healthy fund balance if we do that. And I would much prefer. We've always gotten money back from the school system, unspent money, and quite a bit of it over the years. I would much prefer having money returned to us than having to go to a town meeting to ask for money. Because then you have to make sure there's a good turnout for people that support that. And there's a cost for the town meeting, over $1,000 for publication and all the other stuff that goes with that. So I just don't think it's a good idea to reduce the budget by $207.
anybody else? Nothing?
I would just like to say, reiterate what you said, Ernie, we have a singular opportunity that we may not have again. If we don't take it now, we may not have an opportunity to do it again to reduce the MVR. And if you're uncomfortable explaining to the town why you made a judgment call that said, we are not going to tax you unnecessarily until we discover that now we do need to take money out of the undesignated fund, I'm certain that Ernie could do that explanation, because I found his explanation very compelling. And I'm certain that all of our citizens who are paying taxes will find it equally compelling. I don't think there's any harm in coming back and asking for additional funds. It's one pocket or the other. Either you advance it and you take it out of the fund and you have tax dollars being supported, people paying higher taxes, or we have people paying lower taxes. I think we should let them pay lower taxes, and if we do need to take it out of the undesignated fund at mid-year, then we do that. I think most people would appreciate not having to pay extra taxes on the possibility that the school's going to need all that money.
I'd like to address a couple of comments that you said. First of all, I'm comfortable in my ability to stand up in front of the town on any decision that I make. I don't have any problem doing it. Good, bad, at the door with pitchforks and torches. I don't care. I do what's right, what I believe, after getting all the information and standing by what I decide. And if I screw up, I'll be the first one to admit it. So that's one. The second thing is, I understand what you're saying. MDR to me means absolutely nothing because every year, what they don't spend, they give back. It's a number that protects the inner city from not cutting their budget and taking away from the school systems there. That's my belief. That's my editorial stance right now.
Well, I'll throw
It has
in,
never affected Columbia because we always take our deductions if we can get them, or get the money and then they give it back.
yeah, but the problem is it should mean something to you because basically they're holding $400 million of your money hostage. You can never use that money. And if you're fine with that, then I think you've misinterpreted the impact that MDR is having on this town.
Okay, the last 4 years, you probably should have took it back. However, this year, the numbers that I see here and what I've just seen in the last 2 weeks with students come and go and the explanation, they didn't come to me and said, can you understand that this is what we're looking at? I sat in the meeting and said, okay, 4 out, 3 in, 1 more, maybe. I'm looking at it. Every number on this line has not been spent or saved to the penny. Everything goes up, down. There's fluidity in all these lines here. This is the year that I'm looking at this. I don't see the cut that you're looking for. However, I did say I understand your thinking on this.
Okay,
But I'm making my position. I don't agree. That's all. Do
okay,
what you want. I'm the last guy in this town. I have to answer for it. You're FiPAC, but it's still the government of Columbia. And I will stand up here and ask to be able to fund the school in May next year. If they need $200,000, we'll have to get it for them. We're not shutting the school door, and I'll do that job. But I got to tell you, there'll be a part of me that said, well, for the first time, I guess they budgeted right on the money and didn't get it. That's your call. I just wanted to say my piece.
yeah, but the piece you said was you're not supporting in your role as, for selectmen. You.
I said I don't like going back after and asking for money. I don't like it. People have their. I don't like to do that. Will I do it? Absolutely. The school will have to be funded.
Right,
If something breaks down from the Department of Public Works, it has to be funded. You have to run the town. So my stance is, I don't like what you're doing. Your job is to do what you think is best.
yeah, okay, let me ask you this. If we stand pat and that puts us on the hook, do you think the Board of Ed should stand pat on their decision that they would absolutely cut something?
I don't know what the rules are. That's number one. I'd have to get some more information on it. What I would say to them is, I heard what you said. I would say, run every program that you have, that you want to fund with us. Do away with nothing. And if you need money, we will have to get it for you. And I am trusting you to go, well, they said it, and we still won't overspend. We'll still try to make the budget as best we can, because nobody wants to get called in on your spending practices or what you do. But if you need that money, we will have to get it to you for a time. We'll have to. I just said I don't like asking.
Okay,
So I would recommend that they run the school how they think they're going to need the money to do it. And if in May or April or January, I think December's a little soon, but if you need the money, you're gonna have to come to us and we're gonna have to get you the money. That's my take.
Dick,
What you're suggesting is that we cut $200,000, and if they need money in December, they can come back and ask for more money. But we're asking them to plan for the school year from September to June. And they have to plan with the money that they have available. And I don't think it's very planful or works very well for them to go in, knowing that they're not gonna have enough money. And then only have to wait till December to come back.
so you don't believe that? Stephen, we'll back him up, make sure they have.
Oh, I'm not saying that. I'm saying what's gonna happen between September and December. Because they're gonna be trying to operate on a lower budget than they think they need, than they said they need. That's what I'm saying. I think probably the townspeople would support additional money in December or January, but I think that's not good planning.
Sure.
I think I agree with Dick. I don't think as a person, who's an administrator for programs, I would feel comfortable starting the year knowing I'm short and hoping somebody's going to rescue me. That doesn't, I mean, I think everybody here is talking in good faith. Nobody's trying to set anybody up, but it doesn't seem responsible to plunge ahead as if I had everything I needed when I know that I don't. And I don't like putting our school administration in that uncomfortable position when it doesn't seem necessary. Now, I have a question that I don't understand what's so special about this year, that this opportunity is going to come again. So I might miss something in terms of why this is the year we have to try to make the adjustment for scratch back someone on NPR.
The MBR calculation allows you certain deductions, part of those based on student counts.
Mhm.
And I don't know how they get the numbers, they don't come even close to the numbers in the Board of Ed presentation. But from what I understand is that they do look back at 5 years and get the best numbers, and our good deductions are running out. The years that will be favorable for us, those are running out. That's the best explanation I can give because I don't fully understand. Stephen,
Yeah,
Stephen, did you have anything on your mind?
No, I'm, you know, the same issue, that very last issue is the one I still, and I understand the MBR, I understand its purpose, I understand why you have it. When Judy said, you know, what's special about this year versus next year or last year? Then you said, well, the calculation is such that nobody in the world understands it, even the people who made the rule. Then I'm sitting here trying to be as vigilant as I can in supporting, you know, a doable budget. And what Stephen said about just spend the money as you need it, keep the budget as it is. It's just that the bottom line won't match whatever FiPAC approved is. I'm not sure how.
okay, he said that.
Yeah.
I just said, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, you
okay.
said, you turned around to the people and said, you should spend the money as you did.
He's,
with no
he
cost.
said it.
Yeah.
If he said
Oh,
it
yeah.
initially, I said, I agree. Spend the money and run the school how you need to run it. And if in May you don't have the money and you have to say, we need the money, and the town says, we're not giving you the money, then you're gonna have to turn and say, take away whatever you have to make up that difference. He said it first.
Yeah.
I just said I understood it. And I said, I heard it here. I reiterated, that's what I would do if you can get.
And I agree with that concept.
It doesn't make sense to me though.
Okay,
I mean,
As an accountant, it doesn't necessarily make sense to me either, but I get it.
okay, what bothers you about it?
well, it doesn't seem fiscally responsible. It's.
Why not? Do you realize how much power you have? You have that 200,000 at your disposal.
Yes.
So,
Well, I don't know. I don't think you experience it that way in the school administration when your budget is $200,000. It's like, what are we saying? We're taking $200,000, wink, wink, ignore us. Essentially, that's what we're saying.
yep,
It doesn't seem fiscally responsible.
And no, I'm not sure I agree with that's what you're saying. We're hoping that they don't need it.
are you done?
So just a few thoughts there. As a member of the Board of Education and of the Budget Committee, I don't have any problem asking for money when we need it, but we don't need it. So right now, we need this full budget the way it is written, with no additional cuts. So if we were to need it in the future, the money if our school needs it, we would be able to provide factual information as to why we need additional money. The other thing I wanted to say is, I think that there's a misunderstanding of how the educational budget is utilized throughout the year. Okay, so when I said, what would you do with $200,000, you said that there are plenty of big projects around the town that can be done. And then additionally, you had said that, you know, we'll cut the money, but don't cut the programs. But we budget line by line. We budget program by program. So if we don't have the money in the budget to run soccer, that's happening in the fall, but we meet again in December, are we gonna allow track and field to go on? Because now we have the money, but we had to cut soccer. So this is, I'm simplifying it a little bit, just to try to make a point of, you can't spend the budget you don't have.
What
So
you,
if we don't have the money, we can't pretend like we do.
you guys have a lot more flexibility than these guys have on the town side. You do often overspend the budget line, and you make transfers at the end of the year to true that up. Okay, so you're not that limited by what's actually on the budget line. I don't think we should get into too much of
So
jumping.
you're saying our budget is.
Yeah, we could get out of control. I'm not asking us to do that. I guess I oversimplified. Just 1 second. I guess I was naive in thinking that sort of thinking outside the box would be an easy sell, but apparently it offends the sensibility of people who like financial discipline.
Just to reiterate, we have many fixed costs that we can't fluctuate with. The first quarter, but is what we're looking at. And the majority of that money that is allocated to Horace Court is salaries and individual benefits, which we have to be able to meet.
Well, I understand. Trust me, I understand.
Cut 200,000 from Horace Court is a lot of money. We can't cutting soccer, for instance, that was.
No,
not
okay. Apparently the concept or the idea of doing a true up, let's call it that, in December, January, or February is unacceptable to you guys.
I would just say that for me as the board chair, along my members, I couldn't, in good conscience, ask Barbara to run her budget on what we hope or what we are, promised that you, as a school, you run a budget and plan for it based on what you have, so because we can't take a chance and run that budget on a hope. When it comes to kids, you have to make sure this is what I have and what I'm gonna have, and you deal with what you have.
So Rachel Randall, I'm also on the board of ed. Consider myself very fiscally conservative, but in this case, I'm also an educator, and I cannot stress enough that there is so much fluidity in a building with special ed costs, and you cannot be fiscally responsible in a school starting with an unknown, starting with a promise that if you come to the table on this. So what happens is, we know that there is fluidity in that special ed population. We know that there's a growing population of students at Porter. Knowing that, other things will have to be cut at the beginning of the year. That's just what would have to happen. And those things that would have to be cut at the beginning of the year are the extracurriculars, are the enrichment, before and after school care. Because special ed costs are a growing cost, just as fuel costs and other things that we cannot predict. That I don't think you're going to see that same amount next year, and I think it's not responsible to say, well, let's just talk about it in December again. That's not a responsible way, that's not how schools plan. Schools have to plan based on the school year, not on the fiscal year.
Where are we?
Lauren is on the line, and she'd like to share again.
Oh, sorry. Ernie, would you like to recognize Lauren?
Tara, I said, okay.
All right. Go ahead,
Hey,
Lauren.
everyone. I'm sorry that I couldn't be there. And I was a little late coming into the meeting, so I'm not 100% sure, if I'm reiterating what's already been said, but I wanted to come and show my support for the Board of Education and for Horace Porter. Being who I am, and many of you know that normally I am all for cutting budgets, and I think very, not to make it a partisan issue, but I think very conservatively in terms of money and money spent. However, in this case, I think, as far as seeing what has been presented and knowing the amount of work that's already gone into this budget, what we've already put forth, it really is hard for me to imagine taking $200,000 out without significantly impacting everything at Horace Porter. And for someone that has spent the last 2 years fighting for normalcy, I'm sorry, my dogs, for normalcy at the school, and frankly, who ran for the school board to fight for that normalcy. I can't imagine taking away I mean, I'm not sure if you know, but the arts have just recently started working again. They've started putting on plays again where people can actually come in and view these things. And it may seem like such a small thing, but these kids, they need that normalcy. And to take things like that away and just, saying, kind of going off of what Rachel said, there's certain things that they are going to go up. We have higher class sizes. We have higher student enrollments. If you look at that, they're among the highest that they've been since, on the sheet. So for me, it's like when you take that into account, when you take in the rising costs of things that we can't necessarily predict, and then they're saying that, well, the only things that we can take away from them are extracurriculars and teacher salaries. I don't know about you, but I have seen, throughout the country how hard it is for these teachers and to get these teachers in these classrooms, and good teachers, solid teachers that really want the best for these kids. And I'll tell you that cutting their salaries is not going to do it. And to me, my most important thing on a daily basis is to make sure my kid and other kids grow up to be the best members of our society, because I think in this time we need that. And so taking away these extracurriculars and taking away the good solid, not that I'm saying teachers won't work for students because, just purely out of love, but let's be real, everyone needs to have a working salary and something that they can support their own families with. However, I really find it hard to believe that, the only justification for this that I've heard is the MBR. And while I do value the importance of that, and like I believe Stephen said, not Everett, but Stephen on FiPAC said, nobody understands the calculation there, not even the people who have made it. But while I understand and appreciate the value of it and that it's there, I just don't think that we should make a decision solely based on that. There are so many other factors here, and the most important factor to me is that these kids get through a freaking school year, excuse my language, with some sort of normalcy. So that's all I have, but so yeah.
Marcus, FiPAC art available?
Yes,
Yes.
You're not just gonna get-
can you hear me?
We can hear you.
You have any thoughts?
Yes. Some thoughts. I have, the reason why, I mean, based on our conversations from the last meeting, the whole point of this was twofold. Number one, there has been a consistent, over the years, budgetary matter regarding the Board of Ed, which of course nobody here necessarily was involved with, of course. I mean, the superintendent is new this year, who's doing it with us now, and the board of, and so we seem to always be over budget every year consistently. So I understand the statutory implications as well as that too. So it was a combination of two different things that we were looking at when making the decision on this, because this seems to be a consistent thing. Now, we have been, it was disclosed at the last meeting that there was going to be 3 to 4 additional students. We're not really sure if they're coming or not. We don't really know much about it, and we don't even know what their needs are, because that was never clarified at the meeting. And I'm just kind of curious if we have more clarity on that at all, as far as what their actual needs are going to be. Are we talking about people with autism? Or are we talking about more severe special needs? I mean, there seems to be a lack of clarity on this issue that has not been.
All right, why don't you pause for a second? Let's try to get an answer to that, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
We did have new students move in. We did have students with IEPs.
I can't hear you.
So we did have students, we had students move into district. I know 3 of 4 costs at this time, they're not in our budget. I can't talk to you specifically about their needs or their primary disabilities. I do have transportation costs, tuition costs, and special education costs for those 4 students. They are 3 out of the 4 are here, the 4th is coming.
The 4th is,
So
we know there's going to be 4.
right now I know 4. Student A has transportation costs of $15,000 and special education costs of about $45,000 to $55,000. Student B has special education costs that we know of right now of about $50,000. Once the IEP is finalized, I'll have a more solid number. I have another student whose transportation cost is $20,000 and potential IEP costs are $65,000. The 4th student, I don't have the cost on yet. So that is about $205,000. That is not going for a special education.
Now, the money that was returned was around 3. Ernie, what was the amount that was returned?
331 projected.
And that money was from 3 students, 2 who moved out of town, and 1 who theoretically, if we say aged out, chose to take a diploma. Students have to have special education provided to them by law until the age of 22, unless they choose to take a diploma. So mid-year, I had a student who chose to no longer take his or her services.
So I have a question for clarity on that issue there. Of the 331 that is projected to be returned, is their absence included in that 331?
So if they had stayed, we'd probably have about 10,000 left over.
Okay, so their absence is included in that 331. However, the 3 that just moved in, their needs dollar-wise is not included in that 331.
Correct.
And
So
that-
that will have to be paid for that.
Whole year.
Right, I understand that. Yep, so you have 3 months of
Right.
$200,000.
Oh, okay, you have your clarity. I'm gonna get back to Art. Art has the floor.
So, so the amount that you've calculated for 3, not 4 students is 205,000, and you don't know what the needs of the 4th student are yet.
Correct. I know of the needs. I don't know specific dollar amounts.
Don't know specific dollar amounts.
Are you still talking, Art?
I'm thinking now.
Okay. I'm waiting for a little explosion. See, only what confuses me and makes it tough for me to follow what's going on is you have a perfect budget. That budget is perfect. But you have identified an additional 200,000 you're gonna need. Why aren't you asking us for more money?
We may, down the road, we may.
But still, we wouldn't want to give it to you. We want to come to meeting to give it to you.
To see where they already have. In the budget that they've asked for.
No, they submitted that budget before they
Yeah.
knew about it.
Yeah, they did not ask for that money.
See how fluid it is though?
Ms. Marley.
You done, Art?
Right, and I think that's.
No, I was just clarifying something. They did not ask for that additional revenue. What they're anticipating is that it sounds to me like what they're anticipating with the budget as is been requested is that they're not going to need it and they're going to meet budget this year because of these extra expenditures. Because they were anticipating, that's what it sounds like to me anyways.
Are you waiting for a response?
Sorry.
Somebody else wants to speak?
He said, thank you, Art.
Sorry, what? I can't. You keep
He
freezing.
said, thank you.
You keep freezing.
Okay,
Move on.
that's what I was gonna say.
So it seems like the Board of Education is going to be intransigent. They're not willing to consider any alternatives to creativity. So I don't know that we should have any further discussions about reducing their budget. But if that's the case, I think we have to talk about other reductions. And that means we have to reopen the issue of the town and capital budget.
Does that mean you're saying, based on what you heard, that there will be automatic cuts for safety reasons? You don't think the MBR thing is that important?
Oh, I think it's important. I just don't think anybody else does, other than you. I don't think the board considers it that important, the Board of Education.
Right.
And they're going to use the children's enrichment, they're gonna hold that over our heads. So that if we do cut their budget, they are gonna cut enrichment, whether they need to or not, so that we don't cut the budget. So
Okay.
I'm not sure
And if that's the
if that's the approach they're gonna take. I'm not sure that, they're holding a gun to our head.
Ernie, can I say something?
nope.
We have a public hearing coming up, which public can attend and give their input. And then we usually have a vote after the public hearing on the budget. And I continue to disagree on the part, because I think it's a mistake, because I think the most important thing the community does is provide good education for the kids. I don't know if it makes sense for me to make a motion today to reinstate the $200,000. But after the public hearing, after the hear input from the whole community, and maybe I'll be convinced otherwise, I don't know, but I think it would be at that point in time that we can decide whether or not to proceed with this cut.
Okay, check with your check, and I'll go first. Based on what I heard, it was sort of, I would express it much more nicely than Kelly did, but based on what I heard, I don't think it's worth trying to fix the MDR problem, if it's gonna impact the kids the way the feedback indicates it would happen. So my temperature check is that I'm going to back off, or I will be trying to back off the $200,000 cut. If that's what's gonna happen. I don't like it, but we have a bigger job and fiscal responsibility. Also, nobody here ever said we want to punish the kids or hurt the teachers or anything like that. That's absolutely not part of it. So you've already said, what about you, Steve?
I just wish I knew more about the MDR rules and how it impacts. All you're saying is that we want to cut the budget $200,000 and that's coming out of a reserve fund and it's available for us to use if they do in fact need that 200,000. And it allows us the flexibility in the future to eliminate the state government from penalizing us. Then I take the side of, it's not impactful. You can cut any line item here, cut tuition. It may be foolish because you're going to have it, but then you go over it and then you ask for the money back. So there's, but I also get the side of the people who say, well, you can't give me a budget for 12,683, but really the sum of the detail equals 12,883. That's irresponsible. I get that. So somehow we got to work around that, but I'm not willing to get in a fight with people about it.
Judy?
Pretty much what Steve said. I understand trying to take these opportunities to make things make sense out of the mess that the state hands us when we have the opportunity. But I don't think that this is the way to do it. I'm not so comfortable with the cut, and I think we have to look at. We haven't said that we need $200,000 specifically. Let us find it. We've said let's slap $200,000 out of the Board of Ed because we probably can't. And I don't. That doesn't seem planned to me. It doesn't seem. I don't feel like we need that $200,000 specifically.
No, we don't. I don't think anybody ever said that. It's like flexibility.
Right.
All right, how about you?
I agree with both Kelly and Steve. I do think that the approach was that you had proposed. I still agree with your approach. I think that it would have been nice to have that kind of flexibility. I understand the concerns of the school board of being able to going into a budget year not really knowing a lot about what's going to come. But we seem to always be in that place anyways, so it's not like anything's changed in that regard. Because it seems to be a consistent theme here is that we seem to always end up either being over budget every year, and we probably will be over budget again this year. But it seems to be a lot of unknowns here. So I preferred your approach, but if everybody wants to back off, I'm okay with that as well. I do think I agree with Kelly that we need to start, if we're going to have to cut, if we're going to have to pull back on this, we have to reopen an evaluation on the other budgets as well, and try to see where else we can cut.
Well, let me speak to that. Do you remember last year how much we used from the fund balance then?
Oh, $558,000.
Now, if we restore the Board of Ed budget, as it was originally presented, we hit that number that we would use this year was on 693
That was without the 200.
without the cut.
Yeah, without the cuts, like 696.
And if we stand pat and then somehow get through a cut Board of Ed budget, the amount we would take from the fund balance is 496.
Yes.
It's got to be 200,000 less. So I'm not sure we have to go cutting anybody else's budget because
It's not eight, I thought the 696 was was the number if we cut the budget by
I think we
200.
did something backwards in our. We had a fight on the phone.
I agree with Calvin.
696 was the number that if we took it out, so now we're gonna have to take out 896. If we give them back the 200.
Yeah, well, how do you feel about that number?
Terrible.
How do you feel? Experienced person.
I think we have a very healthy fund balance, and I think we can then put the tone back in that, I can still have a zero increase, and we continue to have a healthy fund balance.
Yeah, the problem with cuts, is, you know, you gotta love kids, but you also have to love the.
Well, I think on the capital,
Are you gonna cancel?
I think, you know, taking the money out of the fund.
Well, why don't
makes
we do,
sense.
do this? Why don't, since everybody's leaning in the same direction, why don't we just vote to restore the 200,000 or check the board of ed budget as originally presented? Figure this out. We can, that will give us a budget that could be submitted to the hearing. But we could also meet next week if you want to talk about capital funding.
But I won't do
Can't meet
it.
next week, it's
So, yeah, well, that was the problem, that's why we're not school.
Yeah.
So the question I have on all this is 2587 the number of mill rate you were targeting?
No,
at
I
most.
calculated
Yeah.
it higher, 2606.
No, it was 20.
No, it was 2587.
I didn't get that. when I calculated it.
yeah,
Just so I can interject if that's okay. It's my spreadsheet, we talked about it earlier today, 2587. And restoring the Board of Ed to the 12,883,942. The amount to be raised by tax to be 149752, which is 400,000 higher than last year.
How much higher?
About 400,000. You would, to get that 2587 mill rate, it's $696,000. So the calculation last week was done without taking 200,000 out. So it's 696.
I'm pretty sure that's right.
Okay, but that's not what we said.
No,
No, last week it was incorrect because I guess with the county, because it was like a rush to do it. And so when I talked to Ernie today, and double checked and he agreed that the 200 was not taken out when that number was calculated last week. So it's 696.
so we're in a range where, yeah, it would be nice if we had everybody here to fine tune everything, that would be nice, but since we don't have a full panel, maybe it's best to just quit. Yeah. Does anybody see a reason not to restore the Board of Ed budget to a zero increase? No, that was either a yes or no. If not, then we should do a motion and be done with this.
I move that we restore the $200,000 in the Board of Ed budget.
The move in second is any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, done. We might have to do some cleanup. You guys, thank you for coming. And if you don't want to sit around and be bored, you're welcome to leave, but if you choose to leave, do so quickly and quietly so we can get out of here pretty soon. Again, thank you for coming. Yeah.
I just like to close and thank you very much for listening to us and working with us again. And I really appreciate it.
Well, I don't think we really can talk about capital tonight. We're not ready.
Here to discuss it.
Yeah, now again, this is, based on the availability of members. Doesn't mean the subject is dead. Except this year, when we make that one of our projects, when we do over the summer, when we usually don't have anything to do.
Question is, leave it there. And cut it next year.
So how many people can't make it now? Besides somebody else? I can. What about the 20th if you wanted to do something on the 20th? But I know we have to get the postcard out.
Yeah, we have to get the legal notice.
Yeah.
Postcard out.
Yeah, again, I don't think we're so desperate or in such a position that we need to look at this point. I mean, we can if you guys want us. But 600,000.
If I could add something, we're right now putting together a grant for Congressman Courtney. I've got 2 grant requests already out. So we're very fluid and we're not sure if we're going to get any of these grants. One is for the air packs for the fire department, that's $250,000. One's for the forestry truck. We're putting another grant out for buildings for public works. I'll know all that in next year's budget, probably not for months. And we also just got analysis on all of our 6 culverts we're concerned about. And that analysis over the next 6 years could be $3 million. So this whole capital plan we're putting together is very fluid.
I know.
Very.
And yet we're putting aside tax dollars to fund it.
Well,
We don't
I
know.
think that might add to the conversation. I haven't even presented it for so. We just got this report. But it's not going to hit this budget. It'll hit in future budgets. But the challenge might be, you might have to actually consider some bond. If it's
Consider what?
Bonding.
bonding, depending, the problem with these culvert replacements is they take years and years and years and years. So
Some of it's covered possibly by a grant, so we do one, get a reimbursement to another, so.
right,
that's
and
all
we're
right.
going to apply for state funding, which would be 60% of the cost. So these numbers, I can't even present them because I just got the analysis of the culverts and their predictions as to what it'll cost without even going out to bid or having them engineered yet. So there's a lot of fluidity. We've got a bridge project we're about to go out to bid on. I haven't got those numbers back, but the Hopper Bridge. So I'm just throwing that out there that there's going to be a lot of discussion on capital over the next 5 years.
Right. Seems a consistent theme. There's nothing, we don't know anything. We're basically throwing spaghetti at the wall. And this is our budget.
But we're in a good spot where we don't have debt and we do have a general fund.
Anything else? I think Dick is about to nod off on us. And if we really nothing else for us to do tonight. So we wish you good luck.
Well, thank you, and I'm really looking forward to it. I get tired so easily now, and I am right now, to tell the truth. And the doctor was saying that once the surgery takes place, I'll be surprised at the difference in energy level.
Where are you having this done?
After that.
Shoot groups in a month.
What day?
And that's what I told them, to tell the truth.
The 13th or 12th. That's what I
That's
get to do.
Wednesday
That's
next
when I
week.
get to do my practice
Next
surgery.
Okay.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I know.
And we're done. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Did it during the time?
We
Okay. Did we kill the recorder?